Jersey Boys MMA Media, first podcast. Now that we have our own website, some people are supporting already, so that's great with the new website. But the first podcast, Jersey Boys MMA Media, and we have AJ's Picks joining us here. AJ, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Steve. How are you? Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk about some fights.
I'm doing great. We spoke for a few minutes off the air. We already lost a fight. Good thing you looked into this just a little bit, so maybe you could lend some expertise into this new opponent for Camacho. What do you think here?
Absolutely, yeah. Little touch up on this guy, gentleman making the debut on very short notice. Hasn't fought the level of opposition as Camacho. Obviously, there's your difficult circumstances. And we'll get into the fight specifically, but I think the new guy's a little bit live here. I like Camacho. I think he's got a fan-friendly style, but potentially a matchup where I think we could have a potential fight of the night.
Oh wow! You think that fight's gonna be that good? So I threw up some odds here. I may have to zoom in. Let me zoom in a little bit so everybody can see it a little bit better. Is that better?
Can you zoom? Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so we got some better odds here. Let's just see if that fight is even up here. Is it? Justin James. Yeah, we got it up there already. All right, so we got some stuff to talk about. So before we even do that, though, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself? You just got off a podcast. You're what are you on Oddsbreaker, right? That's where you're putting out bets on Oddsbreaker.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm really glad that we connected. I know you've been doing your thing for a while and been doing a great job. And do some content with MMA Oddsbreaker. Been doing that for a couple months now. Love it. Awesome opportunity, and we'll continue to do that. Also have like my own gig, which is nice. I basically provide the same services, but it's just distributed in a different way. I'm a professional MMA bettor, and I bet on mixed martial arts. I provide consulting services, DraftKings opinion, basically anything you would hope for is like a go-to source as it pertains to helping people out with mixed martial arts, just helping people enjoy the game, make some money along the way, and just do it because the number one for me is I love this. And so any opportunity I could talk fights is a good one for me, and just something I really, really look forward to. So.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, when we first connected, I guess it was a few days ago, I said, yeah, anything that you want to put out that isn't behind a paywall, by all means, I'd be happy to cross promote it and put it on the website. So, send it along and I'll promote it. But obviously anything you're charging for, do your own thing and collect that money. Hopefully we're making everybody money with some breakdowns here. So let's get into this card a little bit. I'll add these odds to the stream. And I don't know if you want to talk about all the fights or what fights you kind of like. Maybe we could do some we can get into some a little bit more than others. But Austin Hubbard and Max. I was kind of surprised that Austin was the dog here. He doesn't have much power, but he does have some UFC experience. What do you think here?
Yeah, man, this is the one I'm so hyped for because, like Max, as I'm sure you've seen, this guy's got so much hype on him. He's a Division I All-American wrestler, 2-time. And the thing that I really like about his game, and it kind of reminds me to Chris Wyman, is like not only is he an excellent wrestler, but the guy's got excellent BJJ. So he's able to like complement that style, get fights to the ground, and then finish them. It's just so hard to tell because as we talked about with Camacho's opponent, this gentleman who's still young and obviously has got a ton of hype behind him, he's got some very difficult circumstances against him here. This is obviously on short notice, UFC debut, just hasn't fought the level of opposition Austin Hubbard has. And then that said, he also hasn't been past the 3-minute 11-second mark of the second round. And so
I did notice that, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's my concern here is because I don't want to write this guy off. Like if he loses here, I definitely think he's promising. So I want to see how he does going forward. But yeah, this is a matchup where like I could see either guy winning. It just kind of depends on how Max looks here. Hubbard obviously has been tested against strong grapplers, excellent grapplers. I'll just say that. And Davi Ramos and Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say Davi Ramos. Yeah.
Yeah, and despite losing, looked solid defensively, showed some good fundamentals, and I definitely think, Max will have certainly the potential to get the takedowns. It's just a matter of not if he finishes, how long his gas holds up. So to kind of like couple DraftKings in here, I do think that this is like, an interesting target because like it's got some potential to finish. But one more, I just want to sit back and enjoy and see how Max looks here because I think he's got a lot of hype behind him.
And that's what I was going to ask you. My one concern is the gas tank. What do you think about Max's gas tank? Because again, Hubbard's gone to decision numerous times already. You know what I mean? So obviously he can make the 15-minute distance if he needs to. What do you think about Max's gas tank? Because we haven't really seen it.
Yeah, from what I could tell on tape, and again, this is just going off limited footage. There's just not a whole lot of MMA footage on him. It's looked solid, but again, it's still like just over a smaller sample size. I've seen him in grappling tournaments. I would assume his cardio is decent, just at its best. But again, we gotta, of course, the short notice. Hubbard, is a guy that's got good cardio. So from what my eyes could tell me, it comes down to like how much Max gets done early. It could be like the Madsen fight. He could win rounds 1 and 2 via top control, potential guard passing, and it's basically like, will that be enough to like survive and then make it to the scorecard? So while I don't have like a concrete answer for you, I would lean that it's decent based off his grappling pedigree, but it remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. I think like you said, I think it's going to be a good fight. Austin, for the most part, goes to decision. So if Max can get his wrestling game going, even from a DraftKings perspective, depending on the value is out. I haven't even looked at DraftKings yet. Do you have a price on that?
Yes, sir, I do. I have Austin Hubbard. I see here at 7,800, and Max is 84. So if we're looking at salary relative to odds, Max actually has some value on him. So
takedown upside too.
Takedown upside, which is nice, and it's also interesting for like cash games too, because he in theory has got value, and like you said, the grappling. So he's got a safe floor if he wins. But a fight where, man, I could see Hubbard finishing. I mean, there's always just the possibility that Max isn't ready for the UFC. It wouldn't completely surprise me. So I like both sides of it. I do.
Well, he has some difference in terms of height and reach, right? Doesn't he have a 3-inch height advantage, 2 or 3-inch reach advantage?
Yeah, Max will be the bigger fighter here, and
okay.
The more physical one likely with that grappling pedigree. So that's another interesting angle. I'm glad you brought that up.
Did not think we'd talk about that fight that long, but let's get into this next fight. Lauren Murphy and Roxanne Ferry. I'll be completely honest with you. I think this fight is going to be a lot of grappling, a lot of sloppy striking. Roxanne makes everything sloppy, so you kind of have to beat her at her game. The minute you get any success on the feet striking, she just kind of changes distance, right? She's in on you, she's out on you, she's kicking you, she's pushing you up against the cage. I mean, this is an interesting fight. I wouldn't touch it in DraftKings, to be honest with you. They're probably going to be 82? Wasn't Roxanne favored earlier in the week? So she may be 8,200. I haven't looked at DraftKings yet, but I like this fight to go to decision if anybody wants to play that prop. But AJ, what do you think here?
Yeah, competitive fight. That's my read on it. Both women coming off good wins. I mean, if people want to say Andrea Lee won, that's cool and everything. But the reality is I'm just so impressed with how competitive Murphy won there. And then we saw Roxanne do what she did against Barber. Barber had the injury, but she still took her down in round 1 from what I could tell. Barber wasn't hurt at that point. So certainly if Roxanne gets this fight to the ground at 8,600 on DraftKings, I think, or 85 rather, the hope there would be some takedown upside. Murphy's so tough to submit, Sadie, so I wouldn't expect a finish. And then on the Murphy side, I think she's got a little bit less upside because I think that Ferry would be the one more likely to land takedowns. But Murphy, kind of sound bold, but I do think that she's the more threatening striker here. She could potentially threaten Roxanne with her power. That said, I still don't think a knockout is likely. So one fight where I'm not like overly interested from like an investment perspective, but one that I want to see play out as in terms of the rankings.
Well, I'll tell you what, in Jersey, you can kind of parlay anything as long as it's not in the same fight. But this fight goes the distance, minus 265. I wouldn't mind parlaying that with anything. So if you find a favorite at minus 130, minus 140 you like, throw that minus 265 in there in a parlay, and you could probably get plus odds on that. But that's more or less what I'm looking at here. But I agree with you. I honestly can't believe that Roxanne was that price in DraftKings. So I guess this line was a little bit wider earlier in the week, huh?
Yeah, a little bit wider, and yeah, technically she's got negative odds value if you want to do a comparison to the other fighters in that tier.
Yeah, no, again, another cash game play there. If you think Murphy's going to hold up for three rounds, you may get a decent value. I'm going to leave this one completely up to you. I actually did tape study and didn't start. I actually have notes on Camacho and Frivola, but obviously Camacho's opponent changed in James, and I don't know anything about him. So let everybody know. What else did you not say earlier?
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about this one beforehand, and the thing with Camacho here is obviously he's got the more favorable circumstances by a wide margin. But the thing with Camacho is while his style is very fan friendly, we're always going to watch his fights. Drew Dober, Damian Brown, those were all fun fights. But he's not the most defensively sound fighter. And from what I could tell from this new gentleman here, the guy does like to throw hands. He's got some power. He's durable, never been finished. He's been I just was watching a fight where he's been extended rounds, 4 rounds. Cardio looks to be decent. Again, it's going to be mitigated here with these circumstances. But, this is a guy where I think, I don't think it's going to be like the Nam Adeshev thing last week, but this is one where, if the right fight plays out for this guy and they just kind of stand and throw, he could kind of make it like the Damian Brown versus Camacho fight. Not that I'm saying he's at that level. We just don't know this stuff yet, but it's one where I'm interested to see how this guy holds up, because I do think that Frank's defense is a liability, and this guy does like to throw hands. So based off that, the guy is interesting. But that said, I still got to favor Frank just due to the more favorable circumstances and being more experienced.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm on Tapology now and just looking. His last 4 fights are finished in round 1. And he fought a guy by the name of Abdul Sami Wali, and he won by fence grabs. I've never seen that as a path to victory.
I saw that too, and I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, I've never actually seen somebody win via fence grabs.
Did they just cancel the fight because the guy wouldn't stop grabbing the fence? Is that basically what happened?
Yeah, it must have been like the Safarov fight versus Nicolau. Only the ref was like, enough. Like, you've grabbed the fence enough times. That's it.
That's fair. I've never seen that on Tapology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the next fight. I really don't have anything to add. I haven't taped that at all. I'm interested to get your take on Jillian Robertson and Courtney Casey. I actually put out, a brief little write-up. That's what I plan on doing moving forward. Again, the reason that I kind of got out of the game 1.5 years ago is, I got a promotion at work. I just didn't have time to go through every single fight and every single card. So, with this whole COVID thing, having some extra time at home, I created this website through a lot of the skills I learned at work using Google Sites and all this other stuff. So I'm getting better at the Google applications, I guess, at this point. And, I'm going to put out as many, fight breakdowns as I can. But if I only do 6 or 7, obviously you're going to have to go to guys like AJ or anybody else out there to get the rest of your fight breakdowns. But I'll put out whatever I can get to. But I did break down this fight. So, AJ, I'm interested to see what your take is, and then I'll add to it. But Jillian Robertson, Courtney Casey, basically a pick 'em right now. What do you think?
Yeah, this fight to me kind of reminds me of Courtney Casey's fight with Michelle Waterson in that it's going to be competitive unless Casey finishes her. I don't think it's impossible. I mean, Casey does have a good guard, like we just saw her last fight, and we've seen Robertson get submitted from guard in the past, that Bueno Silva fight. Shout out to you. I remember a while back, I believe you and Tyler were on Bueno Silva there. That was a while ago, but good call there. But anyway, that would be kind of like how Casey could win this fight, is basically like by submitting her from guard. I also think Casey could just potentially overwhelm Jillian on the feet with her volume and reach, and just the fact that I think she's the more, pressure, and then also she's just the more comfortable striker there. That's the thing I've noticed. I don't think Jillian's where she needs to be to compete on the feet for 15 minutes yet. And so basically, I think Jillian's going to land the takedowns. I think we could agree there. Courtney Casey's good off her back, but she just kind of accepts it because, she accepts the takedowns because she could threaten from her back.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then it's kind of be up to the referees in that, do they want to favor the top control, or do they want to favor Casey threatening but not finishing her? So it's a fight where I understand the people coming in on Casey as an underdog, but it just screams going to be very competitive, assuming Casey doesn't finish this. So I understand the odds being where they're at. It makes sense to me.
Well, I'll give you my breakdown. And again, you gave a lot of what could happen, which I considered all of it. Courtney Casey has 39% takedown defense. So this fight, for all intent and purpose, is going to hit the ground. I'd be very shocked if it didn't. Even Jillian Robertson, if you look at her last fight, Macy Barber, right, when she got finished in the feet, if you look at her, she more or less went into her takedowns, which are a little sloppy. She's not a great wrestler by any imagination, but she can push you up against the cage, kind of drag you down. At one point, she actually dragged Macy Barber down. Barber got right back up, but again, she's a lot stronger. Courtney Case is a girl, again, who's going to be a little bit taller. I think she has, 2-inch reach advantage, but she usually fights at 115. So how is she going to look at 125? She kind of overpowers people at 115. And I'm surprised. Jillian Robertson's a girl who doesn't really try to get down to 115. As many fights as I've seen, she's always been at 125. And obviously Macy Barber has trouble making weight at that weight anyway. So, this is going to be different for Casey. By the same token, what you said about Jillian Robertson striking is on point. I mean, Din Thomas is her coach. I would expect her striking to be better. I just don't see any power at all in her hands. If you go back to what she did against Barbara, it looks like she's trying to keep you at distance with her kicking ability. But the minute you smother her and you get inside, she can't get you off of her unless she kind of grapples you and tries to get you ground. Her striking on the feet, she doesn't have the power in her punches to get you off. So if Casey wants to, she could just crowd her. Obviously, Robertson, if she can compose herself, is going to grab her, and they're going to be grappling from there, and then it's probably going to go to the ground. So I see this going to the ground, and I like Robertson. I know Casey's a blue belt, right? PJJ, what's Robertson? Do you know?
Yeah, I actually just found this out via Instagram. Robertson recently got promoted to brown.
Okay. I don't know. She showed some good side control in some of her previous fights. I think it's an interesting fight. I'm actually going to bet Robertson in this fight. So the line was minus 120. That's where I put my bet in, and it's minus 115 now on Fight Odds. And again, FightOdds.io. That's where I get my odds. I have it up on the website. We're gonna cross promote ourselves. So by all means, I'm gonna get my odds here. What do you think about Pichota and Barrialt? I actually taped this one also and put out a little fight breakdown on this. And honestly, I couldn't even pick a winner. I went back and forth. I was watching these guys and watching their fight breakdown. I'm not touching it with a bet. I just kind of gave my little breakdown. So what do you think here?
Yeah, it's just hard to trust either side here, have conviction on it. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Barrios got a decent shot just based off cardio. I mean, he's just shown the better cardio, shown similar to like a guy in Heinisch where he'll just push forward in that third round even though he's losing, whereas Pichota, we've seen gas early in fights multiple times. Yeah. Vieira. And so it's a fight to me that screams it should finish. Now, the thing that makes me not super high on getting behind Barrios, I thought his last fight against Park was favorable for him. Thought he was the better striker, thought he was the better wrestler, but then it got outstruck and out-wrestled. So I like him here again. Again, I don't have conviction on it because, again, how he looked last time and even the couple times before that, he just doesn't fight with a ton of urgency. But it's a fight where legitimately, kind of like we'll get to Jim Miller versus Roberts, like Pichota, I think needs to submit him early or finish him early, or that's pretty much it. Barrios should be able to pick on from there. It's possible, could happen. But one where it's just so hard to have conviction one way or another, but should be a fan-friendly fight, likely to finish, and I tend to agree with the odds.
Yeah, I do like the finish. I didn't bet it yet, but I was thinking going under 2.5 rounds is minus 125. I do like that. I think it'll be Pichota early if there's a finish, and I think it could be Barriol basically at any point. It could be first, second round, even into the third round. The problem with Barriol, it seems like his volume was low against Park, right? Like he just didn't get off. He didn't let his hands go. I don't know if it was a distance thing or a timing thing. Park kind of grappled a little bit. went for a few takedowns. Maybe that threw his timing off. Pechota seems to come out. He looks like a great world-class fighter in round one. And when he gets a little tired and starts kicking, he drops his hands and his face is just standing on the center line. So I think Barriol can knock him out, once he starts dropping his hands, if he can time that. He's just got to stay in his feet. You know what I mean? Pechota on the ground. He's a black belt, right? On the ground?
Correct. He is a black belt.
Yeah, so I tend to think Barriol if it gets into round two, and I kind of like it to get to round two, but I like that under 2.5 rounds. So I don't know if I'm going to bet this or not, but if I do anything, I think it'll be under 2.5 rounds. Let's get back to this main card. I got to get back to the odds here. What are we looking at here? Do we want to cover every single fight here? Tisha Torres, Van Buren. Are you all in on Van Buren and that wrestling?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not. I can't be all in on her. The reality is she just hasn't proven herself, at this level of fighter. I don't know if you could echo the same sentiment, but a lot of other people thought the same, and I agree with this too. Is prior to tape study, Torres seemed intriguing as an underdog here, just based off the fact that you could excuse her last 4 losses, just very elite level competition. But the reality is, to me, Van Buren's also very talented, has a lot of upside. Yeah. Really like her game, actually. I wrote her up on my favorite prospects article, and it's because she just checks a lot of boxes. Physical, athletic, good wrestler, trains at American Kickboxing Academy. She's fast, she's powerful, she has very good cardio, took that UFC debut on short notice against Souza, but she still pushed a heck of a pace, can throw in combination, she's varied, her technical striking's coming along. I like a lot about Van Buren, and I think that she could move up the ranks here in this very good division. Torres, it's pretty obvious, but I'll just state it. She needs to win this fight on the feet. She's a good striker, and this is a more forgiving matchup for her on the feet than it was like her previous several, really. I mean, Rodriguez, long, technical. Joanna, same type of deal. Just a lot more forgiving striking-wise, but that said, Brianna could just at any point go for the takedown if things aren't going well for her. We've seen Torres taken down and controlled in the past, like against Michelle Watterson, Wiley Zhang, other opponents. And so Brianna should be able to get the takedowns when she wants, basically past the guard. Brianna is a brown belt in BJJ at least. And she should just be able to win comfortably and get the best win of her career on Saturday.
Yeah, and I mean, you just said it. Tisha Torres is coming off 4 losses, right? She's kind of the gatekeeper, but that gate's been open for a while. You got Barriol and Pechota coming off 3 losses each. There's a lot of losses in these last 2 fights. Even Bobby Green in the next fight, like he always finds a way. He fights pretty exciting fights. He can strike, decent wrestling, and then he finds ways to lose. So you got a lot of guys here that have lost a lot of fights. And then we got Jim Miller in the next fight who's lost a ton. So yeah, I like Van Buren to win this fight. I don't necessarily like the minus 225. I think I'm going to sit this one out. I do like it to go to decision. I don't know what that prop is. I'm sure it's the price is pretty high. But yeah, let's get into this next fight. Bobby Green and Clay Guida. I do like Bobby Green. I've always liked the way he's fought. I think some of those losses in the past, though, I thought he won some of those fights. Specifically, which is the fight that I'm thinking of right now. I was kind of shocked with the outcome. Let me look this up. I lost it off the top of my head.
Maybe McDessie or Trinaldo, or not McDessie, Close.
Jakar Close. I thought he beat Jakar Close, to be honest with you. I thought Close was actually hanging on at some points in that fight. Bobby Green had him pretty hurt, and I was surprised that he didn't win that fight. I think one scorecard was actually 30-27 for Close, if I remember correctly. I have no idea how that works. Yeah. But who do you like there? You like Clay?
No, man, I can't play. I can't be on Clay here. It's just on one token, I agree with what you said. It is a good matchup for Bobby Green, but the reality is he's only won 1 time in his last 7 fights. So it's like, again, how much conviction do I have, regardless of how much craftier, how much more technical of a striker I think he is? Has a size advantage, better wrestler probably too. So he should be able to dictate where the fight goes. It's just a matter of, does he put his foot on the gas enough? Like you said, with the close fight, that's part of the reason why he lost. Clay could, of course, mix in some leg kicks. Possible Bobby Green doesn't check them, but I tend to just think the odds are justified here in that Bobby Green should basically win, unless if he kind of defeats himself, which we've seen him do. You said the Close and Trinaldo fight. So I got to side with the better fighter here, the fighter that I think has more gas left in the tank, and Bobby Green. Would I be totally shocked if Clay won? No. But I mean, the reality, I just got to pick the guy that I have more conviction in, the guy that more path to victory in Bobby Green. So I expect him to get it done, most likely by decision.
Yeah, no, definitely most likely by decision. That's actually not a bad prop either. I'll be honest with you, I would be shocked if Clay beat him, because I feel like Bobby Green gave the fight away if Clay beats him. So I would be a little surprised in that. Jim Miller, Jersey Jim. Again, this is the Jersey Boys podcast, so I got to give him a little bit of a shout out. But I like Roosevelt Roberts here. I think he's stepped up to the challenge, and he's shown some good. I think he's shown some good all around skills. He's been able to mix his skills in, and I think that, again, as call Jim Miller a gatekeeper, maybe I'm not really sure, but he's kind of on his way out at this point. But he's had a little bit of a resurgence after the Lyme disease and everything else. But I think this is Roosevelt Roberts' fight to win. I don't think Jim Miller has the cardio like Vince Pichel did to be able to win rounds, late in the second round and in the third round against a young Roosevelt Roberts. And again, he's young in his career, right? 25, 26 years old, whatever he is. He's got to have a significant height advantage. I know he's going to be thinner, but I'm pretty sure he's got a decent height advantage, 3 or 4 inches, if not more. I think he's in a great spot to get a win here. Again, I don't know if he finishes, but if he can keep Jim off of him and just kind of pepper him for the first 2 rounds, I think he may be able to get a late finish here. What do you think here on this one?
Yeah, I'm with you. Love Jim. He's given so much to the sport, and we always have that kind of uncertainty, that the classic prospect versus proven veteran matchup. We won't really know for sure if Roberts is ready technically until we actually see him go in there. That said, I agree with you. I do think that, Roberts is just much closer to the prime of his career than Miller is. Like we talked about before with the cardio, Miller, I think, will be live to finish early in this fight. I mean, the thing with Roberts that I've noticed is, he's a BJJ brown belt. I think he's skilled on the mat, but it's not like he's looked, perfect or anything. You talked about the Pichel fight. Yeah, he got his back taken. He got reversed. So clearly he's shown some susceptibilities on the ground. So a technical grappler in Jim Miller, a black belt, a guy that we know has got a tight squeeze, could perhaps take advantage of that. That said, I'm just not going to side with a fighter that I think has 1 round of cardio, and just the motivation is much more in favor of Roberts here. He just has so much more to gain from it. And so I don't want to count Jim out, but Roberts should win here, and probably by decision, because he's just not shown to be a one-punch KO threat, or a guy that, maybe he lands a flying knee or something similar to how Dan Hooker finished Miller, but I more than likely think he gets it done by decision.
That was a hell of a knee.
Yeah, in Atlantic City, and I thought Miller was doing good there. I thought because he got the early takedown, he was going to make this a fight, but man, Dan Hooker, that was his coming out party in a way. We weren't really sure as to how good he was, but man, that was a heck of a performance. Yeah,
and again, I was at that fight. I was cage side for that fight. I was covering that for MMA India, so I was literally in press row in the second row. That was a hell of a fight. That was a hell of a knee. Jim Miller actually was doing pretty well striking before that knee. He had a decent, first half of the first round, and then, got finished. But Roberts wins by decision. It's plus 190. I wouldn't mind that. I kind of think it's going to go to decision. I just don't think that Jim's going to be able to win late rounds. He may win round 1, but I don't see him winning, any of the later rounds. But let's get to this next fight. Jumping back and forth. I'm interested on your take in this fight. Bilal Muhammad, Lyman Good. A lot of people like this fight. I think this is probably probably the second most popular fight on this card. I think that Josh Emmett and Burgos is probably the most popular, although it's not the main event. But I would say Good and Muhammad's the second most popular fight. I actually saw Muhammad fight at the worst pay-per-view of all time. I believe it was Durandamy and Holm. Which one was that? Was that 20?
I think it was 208, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was 208. So Bilal Muhammad was on that. I think he beat Randy Brown, if I remember correctly, in that fight. He's tough, man. He if he can get you down and slow the fight down at some point, not just make this all striking. If this is all striking, I have to say I probably favor Lyman Good. But if Muhammad could get Good down, even he doesn't have to hold him down, just get him down for 30 seconds, 45 seconds to a minute. Maybe get some top control, tire him out, make Good have to work off of his back a little bit. I mean, you kind of have to favor this fight going to decision. A lot of Muhammad's fights do go to decision. But I think that he can win rounds by getting that one takedown a round, or even get 2 takedowns over the course of 3 rounds and win a 29-28 decision. I think on the feet, if it's entirely on the feet, I have to go with a slight advantage to Good. So I think Muhammad's going to want to mix it up. But what do you think here?
Yeah, I like Muhammad in general. He and I are both from Chicago, so I always like that connection there. But this is an interesting matchup for him because Lyman Good is kind of similar to the previous types of fighters that he struggled with in the UFC, like just looking at his losses. Vicente Luque, Alan Jouban, Jeff Neal, guys that are superior technical strikers than him that could threaten with power and could threaten with counter strikes. And then also Lyman Good, obviously, is a physical specimen, a Tiger Showman guy, which is a camp that I rate really highly. Obviously, they don't have a ton of fighters that come out of there, but a camp that they're very technical fighters. They're very sound and well-rounded.
Him and Burgos on the same card. Him and Burgos are out of that same camp.
Yeah, very talented fighters there. So I have to appreciate that he's doing very good work there. But, to your point, I do think that Bilal could perhaps get him down once or twice. I just don't see him controlling Good. I think that, to your other point, the outworking Good over the course of 3 rounds, kind of like Zaleski did against Good, is kind of how I see Muhammad if he were to win. But, yeah, I think he needs, in order to beat Good, he needs to avoid getting hurt over the course of 3 rounds and then just kind of like we talked about, maybe mix in a takedown or 2. I think it would be pretty smart of him to just kind of clinch up with Good and tire out, because Good is so densely muscled, to kind of just bust him.
Yeah,
but
wear him down.
Yeah, wear him down. But I agree with you in that, it should be a relatively competitive fight. They're both technically sound. But Good's got the power, and I do think he sits down on his punches better and is the better counter striker. So it should be a competitive fight, assuming neither guy gets hurt. But to just not bury the lead here, one that should just be super fan friendly and one that just is so fun for welterweight.
I think the one difference in the Zaleski fight is I think Good legitimately was concerned with Zaleski's ability to knock you out, right? Because he has very, very good striking, whereas Muhammad is very good boxing, if that makes sense. So you kind of know the techniques, you know the boxing techniques. I feel like when you're able to like Zaleski, he'll come with a spinning back fist that can knock you out, or he'll finish people with elbows. He's just a more dynamic striker rather than a technical boxer. And I think that part of it kind of kept Good at bay a little bit because he was trying to keep him off him because I think he was worried about getting hurt against Zaleski. I don't know if he's going to be worried about getting hurt here, right? A lot of Muhammad's fights go to decision.
Yeah, mainly a decision machine. I agree with you. Zaleski's more varied of a striker than Muhammad. So, yeah, I could see that point. I just kind of see it more so like that path to victory. Like it's close, it's competitive, but Zaleski just happens to outwork Good and avoid getting hurt and win. So,
all right. This is a fight I honestly don't know where to go, right? Rocky Pennington, Marion Renault. If you have any strong takes, I'll let you go. If not, I'd rather go to Emmett and Burgos myself.
I'll just touch on it really quick. I think that Renault the boxing exchanges will favor her the most. That said, Rocky is certainly a capable boxer. She's reckless sometimes when entering the pocket, so perhaps Renault counters her, but Rocky's so tough. But ultimately why I favor Rocky is because she's a more varied striker, should throw kicks at range, and then also the wrestling. That's been Renault's kryptonite. It's evident in a lot of her losses. Even some fights where she's won, she still struggled early on because of the wrestling. Talita Bernardo, Sarah McMahon. So I think that Rocky can mix in some takedowns here. This is just a much more forgiving matchup for her to wrestle than, say, her previous few. So I tend to agree with the odds and that Rocky should be favored here, but a fight that should be close. So
I got you. And there's was there any line movement? I feel like there was wasn't Rocky more like -140 earlier in the week?
Yeah, she's been steamed up. I think I saw her one point at -135, and yeah, I'm looking -175 on 5 times. So
we got line movement. We got to get that banner working there.
Absolutely.
All right, next fight. I love this fight. Josh Emmett, Shane Burgos. I did my tape study, and I've just been trying to get this website up. I haven't been able to put my thoughts on paper right now, so I'm going to give my thoughts verbally first, then you can follow up on me here. I'm going to bet Burgos. I see that the line is pumping a little bit in Burgos' way. I think it was -130 when I saw it the other day. On fight odds right now is -145. I hear everybody saying it. They're tweeting it. Burgos keeps his hands down. Josh Emmett can hurt people, right? I was cage side again in Philadelphia for Josh Emmett when he knocked out Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson had probably the first 2 rounds, right? And maybe even all 3 rounds. It was definitely 2-1, if not 3-0, Michael Johnson at the end of that fight. And I believe he knocked him out in like the last 20 seconds. Devastating right hand. He has a decent left hook. Didn't Emmett, when he knocked down, I'm forgetting names now because I don't have it written down. He caught him with a jab, right, in his last fight? Who did he knock down and then finish on the ground in his last fight? Josh Emmett.
Mirsad Bektik.
There you go, Bektik, right? So he knocked him down with the left jab, sharp left jab, and then was able to finish him on the ground. He's got the big right hook. That's how he was able to finish Michael Johnson. You know, he's strong. He's got power in his punches. Burgos, by the same token, I think he's going to have some height and length, right? I think Burgos has him by 3 or 4 inches. And, if he just keeps his hands up, I think he's going to be fine here. If he can get Emmett into rounds 2 and 3, his pressure is very, very good. And, again, I was on Burgos. I'm going to take the loss, but I was on Burgos when he fought Calvin Kattar. And you see what Calvin Kattar is at this point. So, you can argue that fight was 1-1 going into round 3 when Kattar finished Burgos, and I was kind of shocked. I think Burgos was minus 250, maybe a minus 300 favorite. He's got power, he's got strength, but he's got to keep his freaking hands up, man. I mean, I was at the I forget who he fought at Madison Square Garden. I was at that fight when he got knocked down in the first 20 seconds and wound up finishing him on the ground. I'm forgetting names right now because I don't have my notes in front of me, but
was it Hollabaugh?
I think it was. Yes, I think it was. Was that was the one at the Garden at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, that was UFC 230 when Cormier Lewis. Yeah.
So I covered that when I was there, and he got knocked down and put on the quick submission when it went to the ground. So I think this is going to play it on the feet. I don't see it going to the ground. I'm pretty sure Burgos and Emmett both don't mind striking for 3 rounds, but I'm going to go Burgos by decision or late finish. But if Emmett catches him, obviously he could put the lights up. But I'm betting Burgos. I haven't bet him yet, but I will be betting him. So, AJ, what do you think here?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. Obviously the narrative is Emmett's got the big power. He's an explosive athlete, and Burgos with the hands low. That's so obvious at this point. It's just been beaten to a drum, but it needs to be said. That's how Emmett wins this fight. To your point, I just don't see him beating Burgos in a decision. I understand that he's not as willing of a partner to just kind of trade in the pocket with you as, say, like a Cub Swanson or a Calvin Kattar, just because Emmett just hasn't shown the cardio to do that. I mean, I have to, he's a densely muscled guy, and then we see him fight, and it's like he's throwing his strikes with such extreme force that it's just naturally going to tire you out. That's why we don't see him go out there and land north of 50 significant strikes often. You said the Johnson fight, yeah, he only landed like 22 significant strikes. Of course, it only takes one from a guy like him, but yeah, I'm with you. Burgos is another guy that's big for 145. I think he's 5'11". You mentioned the 5.5-inch reach. Yeah, Burgos in the smaller cage could potentially favor him. I agree with a lot of what you said. Yeah, it's just I tend to favor fighters that I think have more paths to victory, whereas the opposition needs like that one punch, even if it's like a guy that's super threatening. So yeah, like the obvious choice, I guess, is just Burgos, just he's got like a more clear path to win. It's just a matter of like, you know, they're both fast, they're both athletic. But, like, I tend to think that if Emmett is just kind of standing on the outside with his evasive movement that we've seen him do, and he kind of, you know, does that, like, kind of TJ Dillashaw movement in a way. It's like kind of like trying to catch the opposition off guard. He's not always trying to set something up with it, but he's shown better ability to. You know, Burgos, I feel like, could react to that a lot better than, say, he did in the Calvin Kattar fight, because Emmett's going to be charging from further out, whereas, you know, him and Kattar, even Holloway, where they were just boxing in the pocket. Burgos is fast. He's 6 years younger. Potentially, he's got the head speed advantage as well as the pure speed. So, yeah, Emmett can never count him out, but I agree with your point. I think that Burgos is the choice here to win. More likely than not.
Well, I'll even take it a step further. All right. And this is something that I think if you're considering, you know, I think we agree that Emmett is going to have struggles going the distance in this fight. Burgos is going to attack that body. He's gonna get inside. He's gonna work the body. If Emmett does what he usually does and he covers his face, he put both hands up, you know, to cover punches to the head, Burgos is just going to beat up his midsection and beat up that body. That's going to take a lot out of him. Again, like you said, he cuts a lot of weight. He's very muscular. Those muscles are going to get beat up, and I think he's going to be very slow by round 2 if Burgos can do that, especially with the way that Burgos fights. Again, he comes right at you. So if you think about like the Michael Johnson fight or the Bektic fight, you know, they were kind of at striking range and just striking. Burgos is going to walk forward into your chest, and when you throw, he's going to duck under and he's going to beat up that body. I would kind of like to see Burgos use more kicks, personally, especially early in the fight, just to kind of stay out of harm's way when the guy has, you know, he's all powered up and he can get that knockout. But if he can attack the legs a little bit early, attack Emmett's legs, maybe get some kicks right down the middle, you know, to that midsection. And then obviously when he does push forward and get inside, just work that body. I just don't see Emmett having much left by the middle of round 2 into round 3. So I like Burgos a lot. I can see him finishing. I can see him winning a decision, but I'm definitely betting Burgos here. And I'm going to let you take it. This is, you know, you're the guest in this podcast. So Curtis Blaydes and Alexander Volkov, I see the line. I saw it at one point today. It was minus 390. It's back up to minus 430. So what do you think here, AJ?
Yeah, another guy where, you know, I'm grateful that I'm not biased in this game, but Curtis is another guy from closer to my neck of the woods originally, and it's so nice to see him have so much success in this UFC career, because the guys we've seen time and time again is so dominant with his wrestling. Just basically whenever he gets the clinch against guys, he's able to take them down. If they get up, that's okay. He'll just take you right back down again. And most guys just don't have the cardio to keep doing that. He'll just wear guys down. And so I understand the thought process of like, yeah, Volkov's a good fighter, no doubt about it. He's top 10. So is Curtis Blaydes. And just looking at the odds, it would seem like Volkov is more alive than he is. But then we look at how Volkov has fared in these types of matchups in the past, and he struggles against grapplers. I mean, I was even looking at the Derek Lewis fight. Lewis reversed him on the ground. You know, he's got a BJJ brown belt on paper, does Volkov, but he just hasn't shown a threatening guard. And, you know, just looking at the Verdum fight, it was a while ago, but I can't imagine that his wrestling has improved so much to where he could stuff Blaydes' takedowns. He was taken down and controlled by Verdum a few times there, took a lot of ground and pound, had his guard passed. And same thing with other fighters as well, like in Bellator and the Roy Nelson fight and the Timothy Johnson fight, has struggled against bigger grapplers, but has done okay in those matchups in UFC because those opposition gassed out. Or in the case of Werdum, he just came out there and just was so reckless in that fourth round, ran at Volkov, and Volkov just countered him, and that was the fight. So this is a great matchup for Curtis. Once again, I do think that he shines here, but it's a scenario where, like, I honestly think Volkov has more to gain from it than Curtis. I'm not saying that impairs my analysis of the fight, but it's interesting because, like we've seen, Blaydes has fought Ngannou twice, couldn't beat him, and it's just so hard to sell like a trilogy after the one fighter has won twice convincingly. Whereas Volkov, they've had some beef on Twitter, some back and forth, and that's a fresh matchup. So I'm behind Curtis here. I think he rolls. I think Volkov has a puncher's chance, but he just hasn't shown that one-punch knockout power or speed or athleticism that, like, if Francis Ngannou or an Alistair Overeem has. So I just tend to agree with the odds, and Blaydes should just really roll with a TKO stoppage. How about you?
I think he's going to have to get him down, though. I don't think he's going to want to play around on the feet. I mean, you give Volkov an opportunity if you're on the feet. You know what I mean? If he's laying on his back, I don't think he's a threat much at all. And it's just a matter of time. Can he get the finish, or is this going to go to decision? I don't see it going 5 rounds. But again, I was at the fight. I was at the Volkov Derek Lewis fight that was on the Khabib Conor card. And everybody in the arena thought that Volkov was going to cruise to this win. I mean, he was up 2-0 going into the third round, had won most of the third round, and he gets clipped. You know what I mean? So he stayed away from the power. I think he can stay away from Blaydes' power too if it's going to be on the feet. He's going to have a reach advantage, height advantage. So he's in the fight on the feet. I guess that's the best way to put it. He's in the fight. It could go either way. He could outstrike him. If he's on his back, he's losing the round. So I think Blaydes has to get that takedown, secure some rounds, make Volkov have to come after him maybe after a round or two, and then he'll be able to maybe finish him, get him down on the ground. Big elbow, right? He had that big elbow against Alistair that opened him up and finished that fight. That's the kind of stuff that Blaydes is best at. You know what I mean? Again, you mentioned the Ngannou fight. Yeah, nobody wants to see a trilogy, especially when the guy knocked him out twice. Even if Ngannou is the champ, because all intent and purpose, you're going to assume that after DC and Stipe fight their trilogy, there's going to be a winner there. It's very possible after that fight, one of them retires, if not both of them. And then Ngannou's going to have a shot at the title. I don't know who the hell's going to beat him. But now if Blaydes gets back into that position, what does everybody expect? What are the odds going to be in that fight? And I'm pretty sure, wasn't Blaydes the actual favorite in both of those fights?
He was, correct.
He was. So I would have to think it's going to be minus 300 if they fight again. Again, if Ngannou gets put on his back, you never know. But Stipe was able to do it and was able to eat a punch. Blaydes hasn't been able to eat Stipe Ngannou's punch. But I think Blaydes just get him down, take away his power, his path to victory. And his top game is, he's thick. He's got to have him by about 30 pounds too, right?
Yeah, that physicality is going to be a telling factor in the clinch exchanges for sure. Yeah, because like you said, Volkov is like a long, thinner guy. So yeah, it's going to be telling in those clinch exchanges.
Well, AJ, we went through this whole card. I appreciate you coming on. I'm getting myself back into this game a little bit. I know CG will be on some podcasts coming up, probably Tyler too. But plug yourself again. I know your name's on there at AJ MMA Betting. I know you got some picks at Odds Breaker for anyone who's interested in AJ's analysis. It was great to have him on. He's also going to throw some stuff my way. I'll put it on the website for you guys. But anything else you're working on in the industry?
Yeah, before that, real quick, I'd just like to say it was a pleasure talking the fights with you. Thanks again for having me on. This was awesome. And yeah, I'm always doing this stuff. I'm actually working on not this upcoming card, but the following card. I've got that about halfway done. You can find my content. I'm tweeting on Twitter. There's my handle right below, AJ MMA Betting. I'm also found on Instagram at that same exact handle. Yeah, MMA Odds Breaker. There's a lot of other very talented handicappers there with me, provide a lot of value as well. My website, same deal, my picks, my analysis, my bets. I go really in depth, audio, written, etc. So looking always forward to doing stuff like this, and happy to help contribute.
And then what do you do in terms of bets? How often do you sell? How many bets? Do you have a certain number of bets you give out every week, or is it, what does the package look like?
It varies from card to card, but basically what people get is they get my bets for the entire card. Like for this card, I've got 4, probably stay that way. And what they get is an audio breakdown for every single fight on the card, regardless if I have a bet on it. And I just go in depth, about 10 minutes. And then I also take notes on each fighter. And what I've been doing is I go pros, cons for each fighter in the matchup, and then I'll record my podcast right after, so everything's fresh in my head. So people are getting like a fresh breakdown from me based off what I just saw. And then also, if people reach out to me, want some like clarification, anything, I'm there to help them as well with that.
Perfect. Sounds good, man. Yeah, unlike myself, who didn't write everything down and then I couldn't remember names.
You're good, man.
Don't take a out of my book.
Yeah, no worries. We're just starting out here, and hopefully many more to come, as this was a good opportunity here, and glad to jump back in with you. As you said, you took a little bit of a break, but I'm glad we're doing this, and it's a fun sport, as we know. So it's awesome that it's back and it's up and running.
The best part about it is it's really one of the only sports in town right now. You know what I mean? You got MMA, you got NASCAR and golf. Right, that's about it. I actually hit Daniel Berger last week. I put 20 on Daniel Berger to win 861. So I got some MMA money.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know anything about golf, but I'm glad that hit for you. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, man. I remember like 2 months ago when we weren't even sure if this was going to go on, but I'm glad it is, and they're going about it.
Well, listen, if Dana White had his way, it would have been going on the whole time, but that's another story.
Absolutely.
AJ, I appreciate it. I'm going to head out of here. Everybody, by all means, support AJ. He's been good to me, and we just got talking like I guess about a week ago. So good luck this weekend. Hope you guys win some bets.
Take care, guys.